his body down.
Fear is a liar with a smooth and velvet tongue. Fear is a tyrant, he's always telling me to run. Love is my resurrection, and love is a trumpet sound. And love is the power, I'm gonna lay my giants down. There ain't no grave will hold my body down. There ain't no grave will hold my body down.
Look over yonder, Gabriel, put your feet on the land and see. And Gabriel, don't you blow that trumpet until you hear from me. There ain't no grave to hold my body down. There ain't no grave to hold my body down. Meet me, Jesus, meet me up in the air. I know these wings won't fail me, but I'll meet you anywhere. There ain't no grave to hold my body down. There ain't no grave to hold my body down.
There was a battle, a war between death and life. And there on a tree, the Lamb of God was crucified. He went on down to hell, and he took back every creed. He rose up like a lion, and he set his captives free. There ain't no grave will hold my body down. There ain't no grave to hold my body down. If you walked out of the grave, I'm walking too.
You walk out of the grave, I'm walking too.
If you walked out of the grave, I'm walking too.
If you walk out of the grave, I'm walking too.
It don't have a job, it don't pay your bills, won't buy you a home in Beverly Hills. Won't fix your life and find easy steps. Or the government. As soon as you need it, love will hold us together, make us a shelter to weather the storm. And I'll be my brother's keeper, so the whole world will know that we're not alone. it's waiting for you, knocking at your door. And every moment of truth when your heart hits the floor. When you're on your knees there, love will hold us together, make us a shelter to weather the storm. And I'll be your brother's keeper, so the whole world will know that we're not alone. This is the first day of the rest of my life. This is the first day of the rest of your life. 'Cause even in the dark you can still see the light. It's gonna be alright, gonna be alright. Love will hold us together, make us a shelter to weather the storm. And I'll be your brother's keeper, so the whole world will know that we're not alone. Love will hold us together, make us a shelter to weather the storm. I'll be my brother's keeper, so the whole world will know that we're not alone. So the whole world will know that we're not alone.
I can tell it's gonna be a night he just messes with me a lot. It's fun, though.
He said he wanted a drum solo. I was giving him a chance. is what
We
I
do
thought.
have fun.
You had your shot. Eh?
Yeah.
I was going to see some sticks broke or something. Lift up your face, lift up your face. Salvation is calling, salvation is calling. You have fallen so far now, you don't even know how. You are going to survive, but just above the horizon, a new light is shining, breaking through the darkest night. Love is coming and it's calling out your name. Lift up your face, lift up your face. Salvation is calling, salvation is calling. Lift up your face, lift up your face. Salvation is calling, salvation is calling your name. You feel like life is fading and you're tired of waiting for your moment to arrive. But tomorrow will bring a song that you can sing, and your hope is gonna rise. Love is coming and it's calling out your name. Lift up your face, lift up your face. Salvation is calling, salvation is calling. Lift up your face, lift up your face. Salvation is calling, salvation is calling your name. Oh yeah, do you hear him calling? Do you hear him calling? He's calling out your name. He's calling out your name. Lift up your face, lift up your face. Salvation is calling, salvation is calling. Lift up your face, lift up your face. Salvation is calling, salvation is calling your name. above the horizon, a new light is shining. Salvation is on its way. What's the first line? It's like you are beautiful, my sweet, sweet song. You are beautiful, my sweet, sweet song. You are beautiful, my sweet, sweet song. And I will sing again. You are so good to me. You've healed my broken heart. You are my Father in heaven. You are so good to me. You healed my broken heart. You are my Father in heaven. You are beautiful, my sweet, sweet song. You are beautiful, my sweet, sweet song. You rise up from above, you tell me how to be. You are my Jesus who loves me. You poured out all your blood and you died upon the cross. You are my Jesus who loves me. You are beautiful, my sweet, sweet song. You are beautiful, my sweet, sweet song. You are beautiful, my sweet, sweet song. And I'll sing again. You are my strong melody, yeah. You are my dancing rhythm. You are my perfect crime, and I will sing of you forever. You poured out all your blood and you died upon the cross. You are my Jesus who loves me. You poured out all your blood and you died upon the cross. You are my Jesus who loves me, yeah. You are beautiful, my sweet, sweet song. You are beautiful, my sweet, sweet song. You are beautiful, my sweet, sweet song. And I will sing again.
My sweet, sweet song.
And I will sing again.
My sweet, sweet song.
And I will sing again.
You are beautiful, my sweet, sweet song.
You are the one who's inside me. You are the Jesus who loves me. Said you are my Jesus who loves me, yeah.
Take a few moments in fellowship, and then we'll come together for Bible study.
Well, as you're making your way back towards your seats, we're going to take the prayer concerns that you may have tonight. And what? You ain't had enough time to talk. You didn't even move, Larry. Laura's saying you've talked too much. See, she almost amened me on that. Well, tonight as we'll take your prayer concerns, your one-armed pastor is going to rely on his wife again to write down the prayer concerns for us. And so need to remember the Ruth Carruthers family. Ruth passed away yesterday evening. Many of you probably know her through Sue Hagee and her short time here at Oak Ridge back during Pastor John's tenure here at the church. And so she passed away. I don't have any information on arrangements or anything, but we'll pass that along as soon as we know it. And Brian Day is having surgery tomorrow, and so knee surgery, and so remember him. And I'm trying to think if there's any others that I can think of, but let me get yours. Are there any prayer concerns that you have this evening? Okay. Evelyn Colliard. Colliard. Okay. All right. And need to remember Dennis. He sent a text to me earlier, said he wasn't feeling well this evening, and so remember Dennis as well. Any? I'd be sick if I had to watch State play basketball too. I'd be puny too if NC State played on TV. No, I can't say that after Clemson with Carolina last night. Yeah. All right. Any others? Any others that we need to? Jim Deal, and need to remember Miss Hamby, Marie Hamby, M-A-R-I-E. Marie has COVID and tested positive for COVID, not had any symptoms yet, but they've moved her to the COVID wing at the nursing home, and she's 95 or 96? 97 next month, and so praying that her case is one of those where they test positive and never have symptoms. That's what we're asking folks to pray for. And so, but she still hadn't had any. That was yesterday that they moved her, and today she still doesn't have any symptoms. So at 96, 97, and that's something that we definitely need to be praying for. She wasn't she? And so, wow, that's awesome. Any others that you can think of this evening? Right. I talked to her yesterday, and you mentioned Jack Elliott. Jack had shoulder replacement surgery or shoulder surgery on Monday, and I didn't talk to Sandy today, but I did talk to her the past 2 days, and she said that he was doing okay with it. Supposed to come home yesterday, is my understanding. Linda Berry, just because she's still, recovering from COVID. All right. Good. Any others that you have this evening? Okay. Okay. Remember Taylor? Any others? Yeah, that's what she was telling me the other day. I need to remember Joseph and Joanne and Joanne's brother Frank. They're just, she's weak as branch water, as we would say, and so just continue to pray for them as they continue. She said she was supposed to get tests back in a day or two this week, and so that's what she said yesterday. So need to continue to pray for her as well. That was her big point, was just to ask for prayer. So, any others that you know of?
Praise report.
Okay.
I want to thank y'all for praying for my sister Sandy Powers. She was on the prayer list about 4 weeks, I think. It was supposed to be a simple gallbladder surgery, but they nicked her liver, and that caused her a problem, and found abscesses, and she ended up back in the hospital about 10 or 11 days. At one point, thought it was heart trouble and all kinds of stuff. She's gotten through every hurdle and on the mend, so.
That's great. All right. Any others? All right. Well, tonight we're in Luke chapter 6, and so we'll be in verses 46 through 49 tonight. And Darrell will have them on the screen for us as well here in just a little bit. Tonight we are almost finished with our series on lordship. And tonight we're going to be, well, let me sort of refresh our memory. We talked about how, originally about how lordship was sort of defined, about the idea of giving ourselves over completely to Christ and allowing Him to have complete control over our lives and the way that we live, and submitting to Him, and really not striving for what we want, but striving for what He wants. And then we talked about the fullness of life that we can receive by giving ourselves to the lordship of Christ. And then last week we talked about trusting the God of the universe, and talked about how it requires us to trust Him for us to allow Him to be our Lord. And tonight, as I said, we're talking about the fruits of lordship, and we're talking about the results, basically. What happens, so to speak, when we are wise enough to allow Christ to have that lordship in our life. And so tonight, before we read the text, I've got a story to read you that sort of drives tonight's message home for us. This is written by Richard Hasler. He said, Bruce Larson, in the book Believe and Belong, tells how he helped people struggling to surrender their lives to Christ. He wrote this. He says, for many years I worked in New York City and counseled at my office any number of people who were wrestling with this yes or no decision. Often I would suggest they walk with me from my office down to the RCA building on Fifth Avenue. In the entrance of that building is a gigantic statue of Atlas, a beautifully proportioned man who, with all his muscles straining, is holding the world upon his shoulders. There he is, the most powerfully built man in the world, and he can barely stand up under this burden. Now that's one way to live, I would point out to my companion, trying to carry the world on your shoulders, but now come across the street with me. On the other side of Fifth Avenue is St. Patrick's Cathedral, and there behind the high altar is a little shrine of the boy Jesus, perhaps 8 or 9 years old, and with no effort he is holding the world in one hand. My point was illustrated graphically. We have a choice. We can carry the world on our shoulders, or we can say, I give up, Lord, here's my life. I give you my world, the whole world. And that would be a great illustration that, if you were in that situation and able to share with those people this idea of how we try to carry so much on, in and of ourselves, when Jesus is, as a child, holding it in his hand, so to speak. And, we're talking about this lordship, and we can either try and make our own decisions and carry our own weight, so to speak, or we can give it over to Christ and allow Him to be the one who leads us and helps us make those decisions. So tonight, I want you to read with me from Luke chapter 6. We're going to look at verses 46 through 49 as we get started this evening. And I'm reading from the New King James Version tonight. It says, but why do you call me Lord, Lord, and not do the things which I say? Whoever comes to me and hears my sayings and does them, I will show you whom he is like. He is like a man building a house who dug deep and laid the foundation on the rock. When the flood arose, the stream beat vehemently against that house and could not shake it, for it was founded on the rock. But he who heard and did nothing is like a man who built a house on the earth without a foundation, against which the stream beat vehemently, and immediately it fell, and the ruin of that house was great. And so we're talking about this idea of the fruit of our giving over lordship of our life to Christ. And this text is perfectly stating the results of lordship or a lack of lordship when it comes to allowing Christ to be that person who has control in our life. Because he's saying that, if we listen to what he says and then do what he says, then we're basically giving over that lordship to him. And we're allowing him to be the Lord of our life, the one in charge, the master, the one to call the shots for us. And if we do that, it's like a house built on a solid foundation, like bedrock, as other translations talk about, built on a firm foundation there. And that's what we would see out of our life life if we give over that lordship to Christ. And that's the result. That's the fruit. But if we continue to, as the illustration was earlier, carry that weight, carry the decision-making prowess of ourselves as opposed to giving it over to Christ, and we build our house on the sand, as the story tells, I believe in the book of Matthew. If we build on that sand or with no foundation, then we've not given over that lordship. We're calling our own shots. And when the problems of this life arise, it's going to completely wipe out what we thought we had built, because it was built on man's ingenuity, man's decision-making ability, on everything that is about us. And we are feeble, finite, broken, sinful human beings who cannot compare to what Christ can do for us in the area of lordship. And so we see this great dichotomy, this great contrast between the house built on the foundation and the house built on the sand, and the end results of what happens when we give over that lordship. And so Christ tells us very clearly that, in this picture of this parable, so to speak, of what it looks like for us when the end result can be when we trust Him and allow Him to be the Lord. Now, as we're talking about stability and things changing and this idea here, what are some things in life that seem to constantly change? What are some things in life that seem to constantly change? Your wife's mood. Is that what you said? Whew, I had to make sure how you... Okay, moving on. You can say that because she's not sitting right there watching you. All right. What are some things that we think of that can constantly change? The weather, definitely. It's not exactly warm now, but they're talking like 6-7 days from now, with the wind chill being in the negative single digits, it's going to be downright cold then. And so, the weather is constantly changing. And, that was one of the jokes when we were at Appalachian. I think it probably still holds true. If you don't like the weather in Boone, wait 15 minutes and it'll change. And I think there was one day that Misty and I walked to class together, and we saw cold and snowy, fog, wind, and then when we come out of class, it was sunny and there wasn't a cloud in the sky. And so, that was all in a matter of just, an hour and a half. And so, but the weather does change on us. What's something else? Anything else that you can think of that is constantly changing? Yeah, our age for sure. Sometimes that's definitely the case. Do what? Almost right and wrong. Yeah, there seems to be this constant change of what is right or what is wrong, and it seems like the world is always sort of changing the needle on that. Now let's sort of flip to the other side of that. What are some things that always stay the same? Jesus, definitely. Death and taxes, right? 2 constants in life. That's the one that we would usually pick. But what else are some things that seem to always stay the same? Yeah, sun's always coming up in the east. I had an uncle who played in an all-night softball tournament up at Swananoa one time, and he was an engineer type, and it was my Uncle Troy is actually who it was. Ken and Elaine know him, and he passed away a few years ago, but he was playing an all-night softball tournament up there for Easter Seals, and the sun came, went down, and they kept playing, and just, maybe 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock in the morning, he said, the sun's going to come up over here, and they're like, no, it's not, Troy, that's the west. No, it's coming up over here. He was convinced it was coming up over there. And just a couple hours later, he couldn't figure out why it wasn't coming up over here, and it was coming up over there. And so it's supposed to always come up in the east, but sometimes we get confused. Anything else that you can think of that always seems to stay the same? Nothing else? Do those recipes that Grandma passed down, do they always stay the same, or do they change just a little bit over time? It depends according to who cooks them, right? And so there's a lot of different things like that we can look at. Some things always stay the same, and some things change. It seems to change like the weather. And, when we think about Jesus being the Lord of our life, he brings stability to our life. He brings this constant, this staying power in our life. When we give over our lordship to him, well, he's the one that is in charge, and he brings this calming effect to our life. He brings that stability, and many of the earthly things that we might put our trust in, they're unstable. Sort of like what Terry mentioned earlier about what the world says is right or wrong. 20 years ago, what was wrong or what was right may be wrong today. What was right 40 years ago might be wrong today, according to the world, obviously not according to God's word. But the things that we put our faith in from a worldly or earthly perspective, those things are unstable. They are subject to change. But the thing, like we mentioned a few moments ago, I think the first answer we had when I asked what stays the same is Jesus. Jesus stays the same. And so what that does for us is that brings this reassurance to us when it comes to us placing our life, our eternity, everything that we are under his lordship. We can trust that it is going to be stable. It's going to be just straight as an arrow. It's going to be dependable. It's going to be solid. We can trust it, and we don't have to doubt it. And so we can follow him and follow his lordship and be guaranteed that everything's going to work out like he wants it to. And so we can trust him and know that he'll never change. And by trusting his lordship, what we do is we establish a firm foundation on which to build our life. And so everything that we build upon him is going to have that solid foundation, and it's going to benefit us. Jesus said, in this text that a house built on that solid foundation won't be shaken. I mean, how many people do we know that have not built their lives on Christ, do not have a relationship with him? The problems of life come, COVID, cancer, and anything else that starts with C that's really bad hits, and they just seem to fall to pieces. I mean, they're like the one that built their house. They are the ones who have built their lives, their houses, everything that they are on the sand. And when those things hit, they don't have anywhere to turn. They don't have anything to support them. But when we give our lordship over to Christ, he's saying we've built on a solid foundation, this firm foundation that will sustain us, that won't allow us to fall, won't allow us to be broken. And that's what, notice that about that house in the story. Is the storm comes and the wind and the waves hit hard and do all that stuff against the house, but the house doesn't tip, the house doesn't crack, it doesn't do anything. It stands firm under that pressure. And so that's what we can rely on. Not to say that, you notice that too. The storms are going to come. There's no way to get out of the way of the storms. There's no way to avoid those storms. Even though we're a Christian, life is still going to be difficult. But what we can trust is that when the storms hit, we've got this firm foundation to hold on to that will support us and keep us safe. The lordship of Christ is really a gift and a relief rather than a burden. Since last Monday, for the last 10 days, Lee and I were talking the other day, and he said it's like being 15 again and not being able to drive anywhere on your own. I said, no, it's like being having a 16-year-old older brother that doesn't want to drive you anywhere. Because Drew doesn't want to drive me anywhere now, And he's like, do I have to drive? I'm like, yes, the doctor says I can't. And so Misty's been a whole lot more gracious about that than Drew has. But the thing about it is, for Drew right now, Dad is always a burden. But right now, Dad's really a burden because I can't drive anywhere. I can't do any of that. And so to him, it's just like Dad's wanting to go somewhere. It's this burden. And so he sees that. But you know, for me, it's a gift and a relief that I don't have to drive. You know, and so I'm just like, you know, Drew, we got to go somewhere. Here you go. Here's the keys, and you know, let's go. And so we see this in that view of the lordship with Christ is that we've basically, not that we've handed our you know, very well-being to a 15-year-old behind the driver's wheel, but what we've done is we've handed everything over to him, and it's a gift and a relief for us. It's a relief because we can trust everything that he does. And when it comes to the gift of it, it's this beautiful gift that he really gives to us in saying, hey, let me take the burden. Let me take the problems. Let me take the stress. Let me take all of that, and you just come along for the ride and let me be in charge. And so that's what he does. And for so many, though, we look at it as this opportunity to give over lordship to Christ. People look at it as this great burden that, well, I'm not going to be able to have any fun. I'm not going to be able to do anything I want to do. You know, I don't get to call the shots anymore. But that's where that relief and that gift come into play, because now, you know, it's a whole lot easier just to say, hey, here's the keys. I'm going to follow you and let you be the one to lead. You know, Jesus says this in Matthew chapter 11, and this is where we'll end tonight. It says, Jesus said, "Come to me, all you who labor and are heavy laden, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I am gentle and lowly in heart, and you will find rest for your souls. For my yoke is easy, and my burden is light." You know, and that's what Jesus is wanting. He's saying, let me take the heavy load. Let me do the heavy lifting for you. And I'll make things easy for you. You know, right now, to use the example in front of us again, you know, I can't, do you know how hard it is to open one of these doors from the other side when you have to hold something and you don't have anything to set it on? You can't, you know, move the doorknob and you either set it down on the ground or you just wrestle with the door or you just ask somebody to do it for you. Well, you know, a lot of the times right now I'm stuck having to ask Misty and the boys to help me with stuff. And, you know, I don't mind making them, but I hate asking Misty. I'm like, because she's been so good to help me. But that's really what we're talking about here is that, you know, there's so much that I can't do right now. And so that's the way that I see what Jesus is talking about in the scripture. That, you know, because I can't do the heavy lifting like I normally could or like I would want to do. And so now I'm having to hand that over to someone else and say, here, I need your help. I want you to do this for me. And that's what Jesus is saying. He's saying to us, let me carry that for you. Let me make things easy on you. Let me be the one that carries the heavy load and do what is hard and difficult, and let me lead you. And so we can trust him to lead us in that way, and it should be a great relief for us. Well, that's the end of our study for tonight, and next time we'll talk about, or we'll end our study on lordship talking about following our Lord's example. And then the next study that we'll topic study that we'll get into is on marriage problems. And so for the next 3 topics, we're going to look at marriage problems, divorce, and then remarriage, so that we have sort of this uniform theme as we go through the next several topics, and then we'll switch to a different type of theme after that. I want to remind you to be here on Sunday morning for our Vision Sunday. We'll have some special music and get to share the vision of what we were able to accomplish last year, even though we're like, we didn't do anything last year, Pastor Nick. Well, we actually did, a little bit anyway. So we're going to look at how we were able to try and accomplish the vision this coming year that the Lord is still giving to us. And so I want to encourage you to be here for that. And Sunday night we will continue, or actually we will finish up our series looking at the major cults and the group that we're looking at right now. And the next Sunday is when we'll start our study in the book of Revelation. So if you're planning to get one of the commentaries that we're going to be using, there are some papers on the table in the lobby that will give you the information to order it from Amazon or ChristianBooks.com, whichever one you want to use. But you don't have to have the book. It's just the book is a great resource. It can explain a whole lot more in detail and in depth than I can in a 30 or 45 minute message. And so want to encourage you to get that. It probably about $14 and probably be here before we have our start first lesson in Revelation. And so want to encourage you to be a part of that as well. And so I'm going to turn it over to the guys and let them close us out. And once they're finished, we'll consider ourselves adjourned.
Who am I that the Lord of all the earth would care to know my name, would care to feel my hurt? Who am I that the bright morning star would choose to light the way for my ever-wandering heart? Not because of who I am, but because of what you've done. And not because of what I've done, but because of who you are. I am a flower quickly fading, here today and gone tomorrow, a wave tossed in the ocean, a vapor in the wind. Still you hear me when I'm calling. Lord, you catch me when I'm falling. And you told me who I am. I'm yours. I'm yours. Who am I that the eyes see my sin would look on me with love and watch me rise again? Who am I that the voice that called the sea would call out through the rain and calm the storm in me? And not because of who I am, but because of what you've done. And not because of what I've done, but because of who you are. I am a flower quickly fading, here today and gone tomorrow, a wave tossed in the ocean, a vapor in the wind. Still you hear me when I'm calling. Lord, you catch me when I'm falling, and you told me who I am. I'm yours. I'm yours. And not because of who I am, and not because of what you've done, and not because of what I've done, but because of who you are. I am a flower quickly fading, here today and gone tomorrow, a wave tossed in the ocean, a vapor in the wind. Still you hear me when I'm calling. Lord, you catch me when I'm falling, and you told me who I am. I'm yours. I'm yours. I'm yours. Whom shall I fear? Whom shall I fear? I'm yours. I'm yours. I'm your